Hello, this is D, and I'm back with another video. This is my attempt at a Gamely weekly recap. So every week in the future, I want to kind of go through some of the news stories that might have missed our timeline. A lot of little stories drop. Some of them are a little bit bigger than others, but altogether, I think it gives us a good grasp of what's going on in the gaming community. And I don't like to ever be left out of information. The more information that I know, I think the better off we are, especially in the gaming atmosphere where so much things change on a daily basis. So like I said, in the future, I'm going to be doing these maybe once a week, trying to catch up on some of the stories that we missed. Now, one of those stories is the FTC. Now, I did talk about this in my last video, that the FTC was under attack from Congress. They wanted them to drop the case against Microsoft. Now, there were some other reports stating that the FTC was kind of going over their options. Well, yesterday we found out that the FTC has withdrawn its administrative case seeking to block Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition that was due to start on August 2nd. This is purely procedural as Microsoft has forced it, and the FTC could file the case again. Now, I see a lot of people reading into this and they're saying, oh, the FTC could file the case again. Yes, in theory, of course they could go against them. Doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. They were really denied. They were publicly humiliated. Their funding was cut by 25%. They are not going to go back after Microsoft. Their August 2nd hearing was pretty much their last attempt, and they dropped that. This deal is going through. The FTC is no longer a threat to Microsoft and Activision completing this merger. So I don't know what to say to you guys. You can cope with it all you want just for the simple fact that they can file it again. You know what? I can possibly be a basketball player, but will I do all the steps? Will I meet the requirements to be that basketball player? No, I don't think so. So I'm just going to stick to YouTube. But realistically speaking, the FTC, their case is done. This is over with. Now we just have to worry about the CMA and getting this deal over the finish line in the UK. Now, there's also been a few developments in the CMA case. We have found out that the CMA is waiting for Microsoft's new proposal. Now, the assumption is that once they get this proposal, if it meets the CMA's requirements, then Microsoft can go ahead and finalize the deal. Now, I gotta say the CMA, they were out and they were doing the rounds in the media in the UK. And I'm just going to put it on the screen so you guys can see it for yourself, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
The thing that really matters here is making sure that this market remains open and competitive. We know that when we're looking at cloud gaming, it's a new, emerging, dynamic market where we want innovation to flourish, to thrive. We want a whole host of different companies to be able to compete effectively in that market. And I think it's really important to focus on the outcome there rather than precisely how that might be achieved. As I say, it's not really for the CMA to design that for Microsoft. It's for them to come up with the proposals that meet our requirements. But it's very much about keeping open the dynamics of the market.
Obviously a very busy time for you. You initially moved to block Microsoft's taking of Activision Blizzard. It now looks as though you've compromised with the parties involved here. Some people are accusing you of having caved into pressure from Microsoft. What do you say to them?
I say we certainly haven't compromised. Our decision to prohibit the deal stands. We understand from Microsoft that they would like to put forward proposals to us to restructure the deal, potentially re-notifying that deal to address our competition concerns. If they do that, we will consider those restructured proposals carefully. But anything that they put forward to us will need to fully and comprehensively resolve our concerns. Our position on that hasn't changed.
And what's the timescale here, Sarah? When do you expect Microsoft to come up with some sort of revision to their proposals?
So we're waiting for those proposals to come to us. We've agreed with Microsoft a stay on the litigation, which means that we can focus on understanding whether it is possible for them to provide a restructure that addresses our concerns. The ball is very much in their court at the moment.
All right, Sarah, we have to leave it there. Appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.
So there you have it, straight from the CMA themselves. They are waiting for Microsoft to hand over their proposal. Now, I fully expect this deal to get done. Now, it was funny to me how the CMA kind of had a strong stance, like we're not caving in to Microsoft, but let's just be honest about things here. They were about to get thrashed in front of the CAT tribunal. Their thrashing would have been worse than the FTC's because they had an even weaker case, especially when the EU had concessions that Microsoft agreed to that would have dealt with the concerns of the CMA. Okay, before we get into some of the other stories, we're just gonna go a little bit over what Florian Miller's take was on this. Now, he says this makes sense and shows that the CMA isn't compromising on core values. I'm sure it'll happen very soon. I think this is just them showing face. They're just trying to pretend like they're tough right now. And I guess they have to be in front of the government because the government is not happy with this decision. I still stand by my claim that they would have lost in court. Their evidence just didn't make sense, especially when the EU addressed those concerns. We also know that their numbers were not right. They were using Xbox Live numbers and murking it up with Game Pass numbers and saying that all of these users use the cloud, and we just know that their numbering, or I should say their quick maths, was just not good. So, but that's neither here nor there. Both sides are sitting down at the table. They're going to hash this deal out. Microsoft is about to send them their proposal, and I fully expect the CMA to accept. Now, he says, I like the north of 95% part. I have a problem with the assertion, short of evidence, that the UK government told the CMA to stop making the country look bad. I very much doubt this analysis has sources as a number 10 Prime Minister's office or similar places. And I think this is coming from some type of Bloomberg article, so we're just going to gloss over that. Now, he goes on to say the CMA defined a global import market for cloud gaming, but national consumer-facing market, and said behavior remedies were insufficient. They're now apparently going to get a structural remedy for the domestic part, and those access remedies are still there on the top. Also, Sony agreement is a huge game changer that didn't even envision when they made the announcement last week. The CMA mostly have been afraid of the closing over in the face of the green light for the deal to go over in 40 countries. Always said the UK alone wouldn't block. And I've mentioned this so many times. I don't know why people thought that they need the UK to close this deal. They don't want to close without the UK. And I've always maintained that position that Microsoft would rather not close without the UK. I simply said that if need be, then they would close. But it doesn't appear to be the case because both sides are in agreement that let's get a deal done. They're at the table together. Microsoft is about to send a proposal. So it's kind of a moot point. So I think that's pretty much it for quite some time regarding this merger being finalized. I think the next news will be that CMA and Microsoft have come to an agreement and that the deal can now close. And then we're going to have our big celebration. And I gotta say, it's been a journey to get to this point, and we're almost at the finish line. I know some people are impatient. I know some people are disappointed. They wanted this deal just to be over with, and we're going to get there. The FTC no longer is a threat at all. They'd have to refile everything. So we don't have to really worry too much about them. I do believe that their appeal is still going on in the Ninth Circuit courts, but that's going to take a long time to be heard. And I do also expect that they'll probably remove that as well. Now, another big story that dropped yesterday was Marvel's Spider-Man 2. They released another trailer for the game. Now, it's kind of caused some type of divide amongst gamers. Some gamers like it. Some gamers are saying it's mid. I even heard like a popular Sony PlayStation YouTuber say that the game is mid. And I'll give you guys a spoiler right now. I don't think the game is mid. So that is crazy talk. But let's watch this trailer together and we're going to come back, dissect it, and let's see what's really going on.
Lots happened in the last 10 years. It's a miracle I'm even sitting here now. I got a second chance. And I'm going to take advantage of that. But I need you with me, Pete. We're gonna heal the world.
Guys, this is my best friend, Harry.
Hey, good to meet you.
New job, huh? Still gonna have time for tutoring? We'll figure it out. I didn't know there were bears in these woods. Hey, MJ, I have another name for you. Craven. He's here on some kind of hunt.
No, if you need me, I'm just a call away.
Lee, you don't know what you took from me.
All Miles talks about is how to be a better Spider-Man. How to help you.
What the hell's going on with Pete?
He's not himself. Go help him.
This was our dream. I'm not going to lose him.
We're going to heal the world.
So I don't know why people are thinking this trailer didn't look good. I thought it looked excellent. I thought it looked much better than the first trailer, actually. I thought there was a lot more detail in the characters. I did notice a few things, though. We noticed that Miles Morales is now sporting a new haircut, and that seems to have some fans upset. I don't really think it's a big deal. Like, honestly, the character model looks good. They did make some little small subtle changes though to Miles Morales overall, and at the core he still looks like the same character, so I'm not really worried about that. It's not a case like the first time when they changed Peter Parker and he looked completely different. And once again, they have made little subtle changes to Peter Parker, but he still looks pretty much the same as the one from the last game. Now, I do want some upgrades over time. I want some better graphic fidelities, and if they can get the characters more detailed, I'm not so upset about it. Now, Mary Jane, she got a huge makeover. It looks like a completely different character, and to be honest with you, I think it looks good. So I don't really understand why everyone is up in arms about it. Even Kraven the Hunter looks a lot better. The water effects, they still kind of look mid, but the cutscenes, they looked excellent. I'm going to assume that these are in-game cutscenes. So a lot of people are saying that these are the cinematics. Yes, they're the cinematics, but they're the in-game cutscenes. Like, it goes right into the game after you're watching these cutscenes, and it looks identical. We've played the Spider-Man games before, so I don't understand why people are upset about that. Harry Osborn has been added to the mix, and it looks like he's going to be Venom. Like, I don't mean to spoil it for you guys, but it seems a little bit obvious, especially if you've read the comics, then you can kind of piece it together. You know that he's pretty sick from the first game. He wasn't even in the first games. You know he's suffering from some type of illness, and I'm pretty certain he turns into Venom. So I'm excited for this game overall. Now, I see there's some other YouTubers out there that are creating some comparisons between Spider-Man 2 and the first game, and they're showing us a little bit of the differences in graphics. Now, this is something that I normally do, but unfortunately, I'm trying to get this video up in time, and I just didn't have enough time to get my own footage together. But today we're going to use ElAnalistaDeBits. I think that's how you say their name. They do a lot of comparisons. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below, and they go into detail on this Spider-Man game. Now, here we look at Mary Jane Watson. As you can see, look at the new model. It's completely different, and I like the new model better. I got to be honest with you guys. The first Mary Jane was kind of dorky looking. This is a lot more realistic. It looks like she's grown up a little bit. She's a little bit more mature, and I think overall I just like the look better. Now, here we look at Peter Parker. That was the first change over to the second one. That was pretty big. That was a massive departure. And here he looks pretty much the same, just a little older, a little bit more defined. And I think it makes sense because this game is transpiring over time. It's not the same time as the first or the Miles Morales game. So of course they're going to get older. They're going to be more mature. And overall, I think it looks good. Once again, we're looking at Miles Morales. He's a bit older here. He's more mature, and it's a more detailed character. So I just got to be honest with you guys. People out there saying that it looks worse or that they don't like it. I think these days people just want to complain about anything. I'm excited for the game. I think it's going to be a great game. As we're seeing New York City right here, it's a lot more detailed in the new version of Spider-Man. So I don't know. What is there to complain about? It looks like it's going to be a great story. I can't wait till it comes out. I'm going to play it like crazy. And yeah, that's pretty much it on Spider-Man. I think overall people are just up in arms, and let's be honest, there's gonna always be a cons, and I've always said it, if a game is good, just give credit where it's due. We're looking on the screen right now, we're seeing New York City in the original Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. It's a lot more detailed. It's a better looking game. Yes, I'm sure it's gonna play more similar to the original games, but we already know this. I'm sure there's going to be some new elements in the game. We already see that you can glide through the city. So things are already different than the previous games because you're going to get new abilities with these features in the game. And overall, I'm just expecting a much better experience than the first two Spider-Man games. And I'm just going to be honest here. Insomniac, they make good games. This is Spider-Man. We've played the previous games. There's no reason to believe that this game is going to be any worse. We're seeing upgrades from the original. We're seeing upgrades from the original May trailer until now. And I said that before, that I do believe that it is an early build of the game. They're going to polish it more closer to the release. And as you can see, there's a lot more detail. So that's pretty much on this. Like I said, you can watch his video in its entirety. I'll leave it in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Now, after that reveal, we also got a shot at the new PlayStation custom Spider-Man console. And I see a big divide over this as well. It's hilarious because I play all consoles, and although I don't like a lot of Sony's practices, I'm not going to be petty. If something looks good, it looks good. If it's cool, it's cool. This console, it looks good. I think the overall design is great, how the black bleeds into the red. And on the other side of the console, it's just a white spider on it. The controller looks pretty good. Once again, has the same theme as a console with the black bleeding into the red. Now, what's really cool about this release is that you don't need to get a new PlayStation in order to get this new Spider-Man decal. You can buy the blades for yourself. They are selling them separately. They're also selling the controller separately. And from a business standpoint, I got to say this is a smart move. I'm not going to go and get a new PlayStation just because of this Spider-Man skin. However, if I can get the plates for it, and the plates are pretty easy to remove, so maybe I want to have this Spider-Man skin on my PlayStation while I'm playing this game for the next 2 months, however long it takes me to beat it. And when I'm done with it, maybe I'm tired of this Spider-Man decal. Maybe I just want the white spider on one side and I don't want the black bleeding into the red part. And I can take that off and put my original D-brand black plate on the front. Now, it'll give me an option here, so I might even consider this. Now, before I move on to the next topic, let me know if you guys like this type of format, if you want me to continue to do this weekly. Also, if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button. It really helps with the engagement on YouTube, so just hit the like button. It doesn't take more than a second. Now, we're going to move on to Square Enix responding to Final Fantasy XVI sales concerns, and it points to the PlayStation 5's install base. Now, you know my feelings on this. I don't think this game should have been exclusive to the PlayStation. I would have been even okay with a 2-week window on the PlayStation and then it's allowed to be on other platforms, but we don't even know how long Sony has it locked down to. I heard it's something around maybe a 6-month period, and it's just unacceptable. Now, we do know that Sony did pay for this exclusive rights to have it on their console, but the sales are suffering. Now, I don't want to say the sales overall are bad because they did move quite a few units. My point is that if it was on other platforms, they would have moved way more units. Now, overall, what I'm hearing from the game is that it's good in some parts and it's really bad in other parts. And a lot of parts you're not in control of. It's like a really long cutscene. And I don't know if I want to even play this game anymore. I was excited for this game at first because I don't like turn-based RPGs. This is like an action RPG, so that excited me. I really want to play this game. But there's a lot of cutscenes, and it doesn't look like the action requires a lot of skills. It takes a lot of grinding, it looks like, to get certain abilities, but I don't think it requires a lot of skills. It's almost like watching a video. Now, of course, I got to play the game for myself. This is just based on media reports, people that I know that have played it. And overall, I just get the consensus that this game, it's just too much fluff to it. Anyways, IGN is reporting that Square Enix has insisted on sales of Final Fantasy XVI are extremely strong, telling IGN the game has sold a relative to the PlayStation 5 install base. The debate was fueled by a Bloomberg article that pointed out sales of the game in Japan have dropped dramatically in the second week after launch. The initial sales had lagged behind previous games in the long-running role-playing series, and Square Enix itself grappled with weak momentum of its flagship franchise. In a statement from Square Enix issued exclusively to IGN, the company pointed to the difference in its install base between the PlayStation 4 when the Final Fantasy VII Remake came out and the install base on the PlayStation 5 when Final Fantasy XVI launched last month. With 38 million PS5 consoles shipped globally as of March 31st, 2023, sales of the Final Fantasy XVI surpassed 3 million units worldwide several days on its release on June 22nd, 2023, Square Enix said. Taking into consideration the sales figures of the acclaimed Final Fantasy VII Remake and the difference in size of install base of the PlayStation 4 at the time of this title's release, we can see that the attach rate of Final Fantasy XVI is considerably high given the PlayStation 5's install base. Square Enix considers the initial sales results of Final Fantasy XVI to be extremely strong. We will continue to carry out a wide range of initiatives to encourage even more people to play the game. So apparently this is doing really good. It sold over 3 million copies, which is a good number. Now, the second week drop off, I heard it's pretty big in Japan. They're not refuting that. So let's see how this plays out in the long run. Let's see how the sales are. In time, I'll probably play the game. I'm just not rushing out to get it right now. I just lost a lot of interest, and it appears a lot of people playing the game lost interest too, or word of mouth about some of the issues with the game. I also remember that a lot of gamers were not happy that it turned to an action RPG. This could also play a part on the significant drop-off in the second week in Japan. So we're just gonna have to see how this plays out. Like I said initially, this game should have been on all platforms. Even if they gave PlayStation a couple weeks head start, they should have released it on the Xbox as well as the PC. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I just hope that they learned their lesson from this mistake. Now, to be honest with you guys, it's going to be very interesting for me to see Square Enix's next step. Are they going to ramp up the release on PC and other platforms? What are the details on when this can come to the Xbox platform? I think somebody said it's like a year or something like that, or 6 months to a year. If somebody knows, let me know in the comment section down below. I also want to know what you guys think about this topic. Now we're moving on to some Xbox news, and I know some of you guys after the last segment, seeing all the PlayStation news, you're probably losing your mind. Don't worry, we're also going to talk about some Xbox. Now this is coming from WolfOf Darkness over on Twitter. I'll leave his handle in the description down below. Now he goes on to say that Call of Duty is seriously influential. Even old COD games are boosting console sales. After fixing servers at Xbox, Series X sales have skyrocketed by 84%. Now, this is incredible news. Now, you can see how influential Call of Duty is to gamers, especially the older games. A lot of people love those games. Now, Microsoft has fixed the servers, and sales for those games are going up. People are playing those games more, and people want a Series X to enjoy it on. And this is absolutely true. Now, I see some people, like usual, there are always going to be some detractors out there that don't like anything good for Microsoft, and they'll point out, oh, it's in my local Walmart. Oh, I can find it in my local Best Buy. Every region is not the same. Now, as somebody that actually tracks stock across the world, or I should say more or less North America, I know how inventory works. Being in stock in one area is not the same as the whole country or the majority of the country. If you live in some rural area, you might have a PlayStation. You might have had a PlayStation the whole time of the drought. Remember when people were scalping those things? You probably had one at your local Walmart if you live somewhere out in the boonies, okay? So it's just ridiculous. The sales are going up. You can track it. You can look on Amazon as you see its sales ranking. And I can speak on this personally. I build PCs, I sell consoles, and a lot of people have been buying Xbox Series X from me then in the last 7 months. So there is a demand for it. People know that Microsoft is acquiring Activision. Now they know that these old servers have been revived for these games. Some of these games are a part of their childhood. People are excited for this. And yes, it's happening. You might not like it. You might think it's funny, but it's a good thing for the Xbox brand. And once again, this is why this merger is great for consumers. In some of the old Call of Duty games, I have some great memories. My life was different at that time. It was stress-free. I didn't have a zillion children. Call of Duty has always been a great franchise. That's why Sony was so upset. That's why Sony wanted to block this deal, because they know the impact that this has on gamers. Bottom line, Call of Duty is now synonymous with Xbox. Xbox is its new home, and this is definitely going to drive up console sales and Game Pass subscriptions. Now we're going to close it out a little bit of some PC news and handheld news. So I know some of you guys are probably going to log off and I was like, oh no, he's talking about PC. But we're going to talk about everything here. On these Gamely weekly recaps, I want to go through all of the gaming news. So there's going to be sometimes Nintendo news. There's going to be PC news, handheld news, anything gaming related. I want to touch upon it at the end of the week if I missed talking about it earlier. And if you guys like this type of format, let me know. If you don't like it, then I guess we'll try to do something else. Hopefully, I hope you guys do like these segments. Like I said, personally, there's a lot of stuff that I miss in the week, and I think it's good to have a recap of some of the stories that possibly got missed, because sometimes a big story comes out and a lot of other stories just go to the wayside because everybody is concentrating on one thing. And that brings me to my next story. This is on the Asus ROG Ally. I do have this handheld device. It's an excellent device. I actually did a review of it on the channel. I'll link it in the description down below, or I'll put some tag on the screen so you guys can click on it. Now, this device is so good. I really love the look of it. I love the weight of it, but it hasn't been a perfect launch. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, because I know my way around PC, I don't have any issues with the ROG Ally. When a lot of people were having issues with the new firmware update, I just basically reverted back to a previous BIOS and I locked the system out from updating. So I didn't experience any issues with my SD card or overheating or the system being loud. And I said, I'm just gonna wait it out until they drop a new update. Now that day has come, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this appears to be the update that we should all do, and the ones that some of us have been holding out for should definitely update to. Now they've added 30-watt support for plugged in to 65-watt or higher wattage PD adapters or Type-C hubs. Now, there's a lot of adapters online that you can get that support the Steam Deck as well as the Asus ROG Ally. And when you put it in that deck and you use the provided adapter from Asus, it doesn't give you the full turbo mode. It'll give you 25-watt turbo mode, but not the full 30 watts. Now it appears that you can get your full 30-watt support when you plug in a PD adapter Type-C hub. Now a lot of us have this. You can get this on Amazon. There's a lot of places you can get an aftermarket one, but you do get one with your Asus ROG Ally, and it's gonna work on a dock that is not made by Asus, and I think this is a great thing. So if you have a Steam dock one that does accept 65 watts, it'll now support it with this new BIOS update. Now, they also modified a minimum panel backlight value to 10 nits to improve usability in dark environments. Now, a lot of people were complaining that if you played in the dark, the screen is just too bright. So, of course, that's gonna hurt your eyes. Steam Deck, in comparison, got a lot less bright in dark environments, and a lot of people complained about this. Now, this new update also allows you to have support in a dark environment. It's going to have a value of 10 nits. You know how dull that is, but in the dark, it's going to be easy on your eyes and everything is going to be legible. So I think overall, this is a great update. I know a lot of people wanted this. Now, they also said on future BIOS updates, the memory assigned to the GPU setting won't be reset by default. It will now keep its previous value. Now, if you do a BIOS update, you have to go in there and change the RAM allocation. Now, initially, I think it's at like 2. I think you can put it to 8 is the max. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can put it to 4 or 8. So I have it at the maximum. And yes, if you do a BIOS update, it does reset this. Now they're saying in the future BIOS updates, you will no longer have to worry about the previous value. Lastly, they've optimized performance in performance mode when plugged in. So when you have it plugged in, it's going to give you even more power now. You're going to have a lot better FPS with it plugged in. I think that's excellent, especially for those users that want to plug it into an external monitor. You're going to get great performance out of it. Now, we do know that the cooling is better now. The fans ramp up a little bit higher. So this happened on a previous update. So I also want to mention that even though the fans are louder, it's not as loud as the Steam Deck. Now, lastly, we're going to go over the 4060 Ti. This launched this week, and man, what a disappointment. And I gotta be honest with you, all of the next generation cards, they're pretty much a big disappointment, unless you are getting the flagship. So unless you're getting an RTX 4090, an RX 7900 XTX, I would even say 7900 XT, you're pretty much side grading. In some cases, the previous generation is beating the next generation GPUs. And this is not just from AMD, this is also from NVIDIA. And they're pricing these GPUs really high. And I gotta say, overall, it's a pretty laughable thing. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, just hold out until the prices drop, because if they're not selling, they're going to be forced to lower the prices. If you have a pretty good used market in your area, then you can get some great deals in some of the older cards. Like a 3090 is a great buy. In fact, 6950s are available on Amazon for like $600. Those cards actually beat an RTX 3090 apart from ray tracing. The ray tracing capabilities are not as good on the RDNA 2 cards as the 3090. But if you just want rasterization performance, you're going to get better performance on the 6950 XT than the 3090 from NVIDIA. Now we're going to take a look at Hardware Unboxed's charts. Like usual, I'm going to leave that in the link in the description down below. Now, Hardware Unboxed, they do great work with their benchmarks, and they're an unbiased channel. Now, they get a lot of hate from NVIDIA guys, from AMD guys, because they call it like it is, and I think they're one of the most reputable sites out there for benchmarking. Now, as you can see from their charts, the 4060 Ti doesn't even beat the RTX 3070. It doesn't beat the 6800. I don't know why they ever released an 8GB version, but the 16GB version doesn't fare much better. At tops, it gets 15% better performance, and that's not across the board. And that's because of the low bandwidth that is on this card. I'm not going to get into all of the specs here today. We're just doing a brief summary of the 4060 Ti launch. And in closing, I got to say, it's definitely not worth a buy. That price point is not good. You can get an RTX 3070 for cheaper. You can get a 6800 for cheaper. That is better than that card. We're seeing lots of deals on some of AMD's hardware out there. You're seeing some deals on some of the old generation. And like I said, the used market. The used market is huge. You can get much better deals on the used market than buying some of these next-gen GPUs. And it's just very disappointing to see that a next generation card is beat out by the last generation card. A 3070 shouldn't be beating a 4060 Ti. A 4060 Ti should definitely be ahead of a 3070, especially from the past. This would never have been the case. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section, but to my knowledge, I've never seen a 4060 Ti or say a 3060 Ti beat the previous generation, I would say, whatever, 2070 or 2060 Ti. There's no way a 2070 is beating a 3060 Ti. You got better performance out of the 3060 Ti, and it should be like that every generation. But they're milking the consumers here, and both sides are guilty of this offense. So that's pretty much on this. We're gonna wrap things up. The 4060 Ti, it's a bust. Doesn't matter if you get the 8GB version or the 16GB version. They're both not good at all. If you have to get one, obviously get the 16GB version because you're going to need that VRAM, but you're held down by the bandwidth of that card. And I just don't think it's a good buy, especially at the price that it's launching at. I believe it's launching at like $400+ US. It's just not worth the price. Get a 3070, get a 6800, heck, even get a 6700 XT, which is significantly cheaper and will give you relatively the same performance. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. What do you think about this new format? Do you guys like me talking about the weekly news, or I should say the weekly gaming news? You like me doing a recap? What are your thoughts on the FTC? Are you glad that they finally dropped their vendetta against Microsoft? Do you think that they'll file in the future? What do you think about Spider-Man 2? Do you think it's a downgrade? Do you think it looks better? Are you looking forward to the game? And what do you think about the custom PlayStation 5s? What are your thoughts on the Xbox Series X? There's sales going up because of Call of Duty and Microsoft fixing those servers. And if you own an Asus ROG Ally and updated your system, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. So like I usually say, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.